What is up, you guys? My name is Noah and this is Tech New.
And my name is Mahmoud from Fantasia Tech.
And this is our first real collab together, or at least our successful collab. Today we're going to be comparing the iPhone 7 Plus and the OnePlus 5 in camera comparison. We're going to be just kind of walking around my neighborhood, taking a few photos and videos and doing a comprehensive comparison after the fact. So do you have anything to say about this?
So I have my iPhone 7 Plus here. He has his OnePlus 5. Like you said, we'll be taking photos in different low lights as well as contrasting photos with different saturations as well. And so let's get into it.
Alright.
Before we continue with this video, quick disclaimer. This is a very casual test. Mahmoud and I did not try to make it perfect in any way, shape, or form, and we just wandered around and shot photos and videos with a point-and-shoot mindset. Now, you might think at one point, why didn't they just have one person take the photos and videos for consistency? And yes, although that may have been a better option in the long run, especially while taking video, as you'll see, you can still get a good idea of what to expect from both handsets when it comes to their camera capabilities. So, without further ado, let's continue with the video.
Okay, so you just open up the camera, and then let me do portrait.
Okay.
Okay, that should be good.
Alright, so now it's my turn to take the picture that I just took. Keep in mind there's no optical image stabilization, so this is a little more of a challenge than it would be on the iPhone. So I'm going to just try the portrait mode, which I think is inferior to that of on the iPhone, because the way that they blur the image out just doesn't look very natural, and it doesn't like cover what it should, or it covers what it shouldn't. Hello? So we're trying to find another place to take a picture. Oh, look right there. So, we found a new place.
Oh my god!
I think it's good, yeah. All right. that's the Fantasia Tech thumbs up for you.
You know, I love technology, obviously.
Double tap the power button, get the camera out. So you got 1x, okay. And then we'll do 2x. So I'll bring it like this. So I'm gonna take a portrait mode shot. See how this kind of like, it like covers up what it shouldn't. It's so stupid. Or like portrait orientation.
Okay, so now you took portrait and portrait.
Yeah, portrait and portrait, yep. Double portrait.
All these people driving by are probably really concerned for
Our mental health.
what is it?
Found a new location. We got 4 trees that are parallel to each other, which is kind of cool. I like.
And the real estate sign in the background.
It's free real estate.
Oh, that looks interesting.
I guess just stay in one place.
So I could take a 2x too.
Okay, wait till you that.
Because don't forget, it has 2 different cameras. Okay, there we go.
Alright, so that's with the portrait mode.
Rule of thirds.
Good, that's good. Thank God. Okay, so here's 1x right here. Take a few just to. Okay, here's 2x. Here's portrait. Why isn't this working? Hello? Okay, I'm gonna quit the camera app and I'm gonna open it up again. Alright. I think we're good. Let's find another location. We got a park in my neighborhood, so we'll just head over there and I think we'll do a video test there. How about that?
Sounds good.
Alright, let's go. What if he like yells at us? He's like, "This is a private establishment. You can't film here."
What? Oh, okay. I thought you were doing something else.
I'm thirsty, guys. Oh man, this is the most uncomfortable thing I've ever done.
So we're gonna take a picture of this. Why can't I find this? The basketball net over here. How about you go first and take? I mean, like, take it again so I can get on the camera.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, it's kind of hard to see stuff on the screen, but.
Alright, so there's that. And then we're going to do a portrait from right here. Right at this moment, this is not working very well. Here we go. I think that's good enough. You think? I mean, like, it's not going to get much better than that. So how about we walk around the perimeter of this baseball field and just kind of like hold both phones just kind of thick. Alright, and we can do the same test with 1080 60, 1080 30, and 4K. Just the same exact test.
Yeah.
All right, let's do this. So let's just.
So we're gonna take a picture over in this field over here. I think taking a shot over here will show us more about how post-processing works on the iPhone and the OnePlus.
God, dragonflies.
You would not believe your... Oh wait, that's fireflies.
10 million firefly.
It's poison ivy.
That's good.
Alright, 1x. And honestly, with this video, you know, we're not kind of bending over backwards to try to get really great shots. This is more of like a everyday kind of, oh, I just want to snap a picture kind of thing. You know, it's not going to be perfect.
All of these photos and videos were taken in the stock camera applications on both devices and remain unaltered except for crop and scale within Final Cut, which I will notify you of. Also, remember my judgment is going to be a bit subjective, although I will try to be as objective as possible. Starting with photo pair 1, right off the bat you notice how much more saturated the OnePlus photo is, especially when looking at the greens and yellows. It also seems to have higher contrast, a warmer tone. On the other hand, the photo the 7 Plus yielded seems to be a lot more flat looking, but is stunning nonetheless. Moving on to pair number 2, we can see how both phones perform with their portrait modes, which add a synthetic depth of field effect. So just like in pair 1, the OnePlus's photos appear to be more contrasty and saturated, so pretty much the same story, same impressions from the last pair, except for how the bokeh effects work. In a lot of ways, although OnePlus's portrait effect is good, Apple seems to be a bit more refined, which is kind of understandable as they do have more money to put into their camera and software development. The reason I say this is because in the iPhone shot, the edges of the SUV retain their sharpness, whereas on the OnePlus, it does a bit more of a sloppier job, blurring the edges excessively. In the next pair, pair 3, once again we can see how the OnePlus is pushing a warmer tone and higher saturated colors, whereas the iPhone produces a flatter, cooler toned look, which I happen to enjoy, especially in this shot. In regards to the bokeh effect, however, although the edges of the fire hydrant are less defined in the OnePlus's photo, it does a better job with the chains, as in the iPhone's image you can see some choppiness surrounding them with that portrait or bokeh effect. And moving on to pairs number 4, 5, and 6, it is evident yet again that the OnePlus 5 reproduces images with more saturated colors and contrast, whereas the iPhone yields a more muted, perhaps more true-to-life look. One thing I do notice is that the objects further in the distance in the pair 5 and 6 OnePlus shots seem to be a bit sharper, most likely due to the high megapixel count in both the OnePlus's sensors, which are 60 megapixel and 20 megapixel. I also noticed that the OnePlus 5 has a bit better dynamic range as well, especially when zooming in and looking closely at the highly exposed areas in both shots. Comparing the bokeh effects in pair 6, we can see the nuances in OnePlus's and Apple's post-processing with this effect. Just as before, we can see how iOS can better conform to the portrait effect around the tree in the foreground without sacrificing sharpness along the edges. However, the background blur is much more prominent in the OnePlus image, which emulates a wider or faster lens on a DSLR. You can also notice quite a bit of noise in and around the tree in the midground of the iPhone shot, which maybe could have been avoided if the bokeh effect was more severe. Taking a look at pairs 7 and 8, we witness the same story once again in regards to saturation, contrast, and sharpness. In pair 8, we can yet again see the difference in severity of the background blur produced by both phones' portrait modes. By the way, I did have to zoom in a little into the OnePlus's photo to match it more closely with the iPhone's image. I happen to prefer the iPhone's bokeh effect in this particular set of images, as once again, it better identifies and conforms to the edges of the basketball net support arm or pole. Lastly, in pair 8, you can definitely spot the difference in contrast and saturation. Although I like some contrast in my photos, too much of it in some instances can hide some detail, as seen in the OnePlus's landscape photo. The iPhone under these circumstances captures higher detail in the shadows of the foliage in the background. On the flip side, I did notice in the OnePlus 5's image much more detail in the leaves in the foreground, which can likely be credited to its 60 megapixel and 20 megapixel sensors, as I mentioned earlier. Moving on to video, this is where in my opinion the OnePlus 5 falls behind the 7 Plus significantly. Starting with 1080p 30 video, we see the same difference in contrast and saturation like in the photos. However, due to the fact that the iPhone features hardware stabilization or OIS, it produces a sharper image, whereas the OnePlus 5 with strictly software stabilization or EIS seems to crop into the footage to compensate for any shakiness, just like warp stabilization or the stabilization effect in Final Cut does. It has to sacrifice some resolution in order to make the image look decent. I also prefer the iPhone's footage due to its flatter look, which would make it easier to manipulate to my liking in post, where I could adjust exposure and the color of the image easier. Moving on to 1080p 60 video, this is where everything begins to go to shit for the OnePlus. The company has not yet implemented EIS for 1080-60 video nor 4K, which you will see shortly. Now I will say Mahmoud was being much more careful and stable when filming during this test than I was, but that doesn't change the fact that the lack of OIS within the OnePlus 5 at the moment is horrendous. I stabilized the footage in post so we could pay better attention to the image quality rather than the hideous shake. Last but not least, we get to 4K video, which honestly makes me cringe under these circumstances. You can see how much sharper the iPhone's footage looks initially in comparison to its competition. You can also notice a bit of artifacting when panning up in the OnePlus's shot, which I initially blamed on the file transfer software that I used to get the necessary files on the computer, until I looked on my phone and saw the exact same artifacting, which is honestly disappointing. It could have just been that moment. I'm sure it can be fixed with a software update and is not really a hardware issue.
Alright, so we just finished up. I'm going to have my video. I think it's going to be titled from OnePlus user's perspective, camera comparison between the OnePlus 5 and the iPhone 7 Plus, and then he's going to have one from the iPhone user's perspective. So we're going to kind of have our separate commentary on each of the photos. We're going to analyze them differently. And yeah, so I hope you enjoyed this video. I'd appreciate it if you leave a like, comment if you have any questions or suggestions, and subscribe for more content like this. And as always, other than that, I will catch you all in the next one.